bietet ein Zeitspendenprogramm, das jedes gespendete Lebensjahr großzügig vergütet.
Save your time, save your money. Welcome to Rotten Real Roll. I'm Sinmin. Today, we're exploring Netflix's latest, Paradise. Note, this episode gets intense, especially in the second half, challenging perspectives. So please watch with care. Before we start, please like, share, and follow our channel if you enjoy this content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for updates. Thank you. On the same day, I watched a Netflix films, Paradise, and Bill Burr's Old Dads. They tell vastly different stories but hold contrasting core values, making it intriguing. I'll provide a separate commentary for Old Dads, with a link in the description for those interested. Without further ado, let's dive in. Let's quickly recap. In the near future, a revolutionary DNA-based method shifts lifespans between individuals, making Sophie, Aeon's CEO, Europe's richest woman. Max, Aeon's top salesperson, and his wife Elena faced a drastic change after a fire. To repay their mortgage, Elena had to donate 40 years of her life, pushing them into poverty. Max seeks Sophie's help but uncovers a shocking secret. She's now much younger, and was the recipient of Elena's lifespan. Upon this revelation, Max decides to kidnap Sophie to reclaim his wife's lost years. Many sci-fi films share similar concepts, such as Repo Men, In Time, Selfless, and The Island, not to mention my own script written years ago at the request of a Chinese production company. We can categorize above as lifespan capitalism movies. These films typically portray societies with extreme wealth disparities, where the wealthy not only exploit the poor but also take their last asset, life itself. The only distinction is the technology used. Repo Men involves organ transplants, The Island centers on cloning, and Paradise uses DNA matching. Among these, I found In Time, featuring Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried, to possess a brilliantly devised concept. The idea of easily transferring lifespans, like a bank transaction, while linking labor time with life, where the poor will perish if they don't work daily, mirrors a cinematic adaptation of Das Kapital. In contrast, Paradise falls short of the height set by In Time. It lacks the suspenseful build-up seen in The Island in the earlier mentioned movies. If you like this genre, Paradise might not be your top choice. That said, within the realm of Netflix films, it maintains a reasonable standard. The actors deliver solid performances, and there are surprising twists in the latter part of the film. The concept of the resistance group seems to draw from real-world parallels. Nevertheless, the transformations of the main characters toward the end come off as abrupt, a weak point in my view. To sum it up, I'd rate this film around a 6 out of 10. If you're looking to pass the time on Netflix, it's a decent pick. Next, I'd like to explore the associations rising from this film and similar ones. This is the unique aspect of our channel, discussing movies, not just for the films themselves, but to view our world through the lens of cinema. During my early screenwriting studies over a decade ago, a Film Academy professor posed a thought-provoking question. What is the essence of cinema? Most students gave conventional answers like the seventh art involving visual and auditory expression. But this professor's response was astonishing. He stated, "Cinema is the most effective propaganda tool of our time. It inherently carries a mission, which is to convey that the Chinese Communist Party is virtuous and righteous, while leading Western capitalist nations, especially the United States, are wicked, sin-riddled, and will eventually be eradicated." For someone raised in China, this answer wasn't surprising. What was surprising was his argument. He explained that cinema's essence, as he saw it, lies in the process where creators manipulate the audience's emotions through visual and auditory elements. Success means moving the audience. Creators essentially become psychological manipulators. They must understand universal human psychological patterns and employ storytelling and technical techniques to make the audience cry, laugh, fear, feel emotions, or provoke thought, all without appealing to their reason. This is why there are courses like screenwriting psychology, employing statistical and empirical methods to teach students how to make the audience cry using specific plots and emotional triggers. For example, creating a character who starts as cold but reveals their softer side can make the audience feel a connection. Eventually, when that character dies, most of the audience will cry, and you convince them to embrace the film's values. This is cinema's power. In one's own film, the screenwriter and director act as God, crafting any story and background that serves their agenda and convincing the audience of its truth and righteousness. The professor also mentioned that Goebbels was the pioneer in this field, excelling in inciting emotions to achieve propaganda goals. The only difference today is that modern film technology makes it more accessible. Understanding this theory, I observed that, as the professor claimed, nearly every film conveys a lesson and a plot woven around it, designed to bolster its persuasive power. For instance, the story of Snow White. In the era of the Brothers Grimm, the prince saves the princess. But in an era of feminism, it's the princess who saves the prince. Today, a black actress portrays Snow White because the story shifts to align with changing ideologies. The original story becomes irrelevant. The distinction is that in democratic countries, different values have an opportunity to be depicted in films, not just a single narrative. Knowing all of this, we might comprehend why capitalism has largely shaped modern civilization. Yet under the pens of Western creators, movies like Paradise dedicated to critiquing capitalism are so abundant. As previously mentioned, despite the theoretical potential for diverse values in films in democratic countries, in practice, movies worldwide, whether from the West or from China, Russia, and beyond, overwhelmingly lean towards a left-wing narrative that opposes capitalism, to the extent that it's exceedingly rare today to encounter a film promoting opposing values. The reason for this is straightforward. Narratives of the underdog against the powerful strongly resonate with most audiences. This theme is highly suitable for adaptation into film and television because it combines sympathy and moral persuasion, rendering it more contagious, aimed at evoking the emotions of ordinary people. In contrast to the often dry and intellectually demanding wealth of nations, a movie or novel portraying oppressed common folks rising against malevolent capitalists is much more entertaining and readily communicable. Nevertheless, it should be acknowledged that films like Paradise feature significant logical flaws in their story settings. Initially, the film fails to clarify the nature of the society it portrays. Why there isn't personal bankruptcy law in Germany at that time, leading to the main character having to sell 40 years of her life after defaulting on her loans. The director appears uncertain about this. On one hand, a large influx of refugees enters Germany, seemingly to remind us that it's a contemporary Germany in Europe. Yet the democratic system collapses, transforming Europe into a living nightmare. For instance, on the German-Lithuanian border, concentration camps emerge where they forcibly take the lives of refugees en masse. And yet refugees continue to willingly pour into Europe like a tide. This leads to a contradiction. If Germany is still a democratic nation, why didn't Eleanor's tragic situation, resulting from her inability to repay the loan, prompt media coverage, public discourse, and widespread societal support? Why didn't the majority of the population, those compelled to donate their lifespans to the wealthy, use their votes to advocate legislation restricting the use of life transfer technology? Why was there a need to establish an underground resistance group to assassinate the wealthy who obtained these lifespans? Conversely, if Germany has reverted to a totalitarian state where people's lives are unprotected, why are refugees still flocking to Germany, willingly surrendering their lives? Especially considering the existence of China, a prohibition of time donation utopian country mentioned in the story.
Volksrepublik China setzt sich schon lange für ein internationales Gebot von Zeitspenden ein.
Both Germans and refugees in this film appear somewhat naive. Furthermore, the film's creators frequently reference the term system. The main character is initially portrayed as a screw in the capitalist system, an accomplice to the system. But ultimately, he grasps the truth and joins the resistance organization to combat the system. However, anyone with basic political knowledge knows that no totalitarian system in human history has been established by capitalists. Even in Nazi Germany or pre-World War demilitarist Japan, where capitalism coexisted, capitalists held insignificant roles. Therefore, a company like Eon, with the power to effortlessly manipulate national machinery for its purposes, even across borders, doesn't logically exist. It's more akin to a patchwork monster that the director fantasized about for self-justification. This is analogous to fantasizing about a Godzilla of several kilometers in height, which, according to Newton's laws of calculation, is impossible on Earth. The only entity capable of wielding such power is state capitalism, where power and capital conspire to monopolize all resources. In such a society, like the former Soviet Union and today's China, it is driven by an extreme left ideology, not by capitalists. Therefore, in this story, the mention of China as the only place where time transfer is prohibited is highly ironic. The reason is simple. If technology truly existed to take the lives of the poor to make the wealthy immortal, the place with the least resistance in legislation would be China, where the likelihood of the rich rejecting such technology is zero. Moreover, it is the only major country that has not enacted personal bankruptcy laws. Such a setup basically falls into the category of some Western directors' distant imagination of the grass is greener on the other side, much like Europeans in Marco Polo's time believed that China was full of gold, or intellectuals in 1930s America thought that the Soviet Union represented the advance of human civilization. They've never experienced a so-called golden age of widespread famine or visited the labor camps on the Gulag archipelago. Throughout their lives, most of these people witness only the detestable faces of capitalist bosses. The distinction is that, aside from entertainment, the fantasy of Godzilla won't cause us any harm. However, the fantasy of a company like Eon could potentially disrupt and transform our lives, especially when such fantasies are repeated tens of thousands of times. Well, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share our video. And don't forget to ring the bell for updates, so that YouTube's algorithm can better recommend our channel. See ya!